As we mentioned at the top of the hour, British Columbia is suffering the loss of a musical legend. More than that, really. Dal Richards died last night at the age of 97. His career spanned decades of enjoyment for lovers of big band music. Diane Lines was there for a big chunk of that. She's a pianist and a vocalist with the Dal Richards Orchestra. Diane, hello. Thanks for coming in. Sorry about your loss.
Oh, thank you very much. And on behalf of the family, it has been a loss, but we're very grateful for such a long time with an amazing man.
Yeah, I mean, 97. We should really consider this a celebration of life. It's hard to imagine him gone.
That's the thing, because up until very recently, he had boundless energy. I mean, even as recently as Christmas Eve, he was at one of the Vespers performances, and he did a reading there, and it's quite remarkable.
Tell us about Dal. I mean, I've met him a few times, and he was always so gracious, so warm, but he was like that with everybody, wasn't he?
He was like that with everybody, absolutely. He really did embrace life, and he was very interested in people. He would meet people that, you know, he might have played their graduation dance or something in 1956, and he would remember the gig. He would remember people's husbands' names, and it was just remarkable. He was truly invested in people and their life stories.
It's, I don't know, ironic, fitting, I don't know what the word is, that he passed away on New Year's Eve.
Absolutely, and though he wasn't really communicating in the last few days, when we were there, his wife Muriel and his daughters Jen and Casey and Lindsay and I were there with him just as the clock ticked over into December 31st, so the early morning hours of December 31st, and we started singing Auld Lang Syne, and his eyes opened, and he sang with us.
Oh. What did he mean to you?
Oh, he meant a lot to me. He was, when you were part of the Dal Richards Orchestra, you were part of the Dal Richards musical family. So it wasn't just the gigs, it was also learning about life. I love that music too. I love the big band era of music, as we all do, the folks in the orchestra. And he was a link to that era. He wasn't just a fan. He knew, he was a contemporary of Duke Ellington and Benny Goodman and Glenn Miller. So you could go to him as a source, as a walking encyclopedia of that kind of music. It was the real deal. And also just an inspiration for someone who was constantly curious about life, someone who he never wanted to miss a thing. And I think that was another reason for his longevity and his energy. And also just watching a man who always seized an opportunity. He felt he was very lucky and was always got the benefit of just being in the right place at the right time, but really he knew how to seize an opportunity and turn an opportunity into a great event, and more work and more gigs and more music and making more people happy, which was his goal.
You speak of longevity, and I mean his career spans 8 decades almost.
Yes.
And there was a time when big band music maybe wasn't in fashion, but somehow he and you and everyone else sort of made it work.
Well, that's true. Actually, when the Beatles hit the scene, which is so long ago, but that was the end of his time at the Roof. Ironically, he actually was playing at the stadium when the Beatles were here in Vancouver. He was playing that night as the crowd was coming in, so he was there for that event. And then shortly after, he lost his gig at the Roof. But he went back to school in his 50s and got his degree in hotel management and worked in various hotels in town at the Devonshire and such, and then began to find opportunities to play again and dance nights. And pretty soon there was this resurgence in big band music, and he seized that opportunity again and found people like a young Michael Bublé to work with him, and Michael Casehammer, Bria Skonberg, always interested in nurturing young new talent as well. And yeah, he turned it into a real revival of his career. And I think he was even busier in these last few years than he was back in the 40s.
Oh, it's so many great stories. I heard an interesting one about Prohibition era and Dal warning the patrons at the Roof that the cops were on their way up. I mean, I'm sure there's just a ton of just memorable stories you can recount.
Well, I wasn't there for that part, but my mother was, when they'd all hide their bottles under the table during the Prohibition era. And when Dal said when the police would come to the front lobby, they would call up and warn the band, and the band would start playing Roll Out the Barrel. So when the crowd heard Roll Out the Barrel, they knew to hide the bottles again.
Oh, and I'm sure just talking to him. I mean, you always got this just wonderful sense of mischief.
Yes, absolutely. He had a great sense of humor, wonderful sense of humor.
And the family, I mean, there will be, I'm sure there'll be private moments as well, but Dal was such an important part of the city. We're all going to want to say goodbye. Do you have any idea how that's going to happen or work?
There's plan now for a service. The date hasn't been set in stone, but there'll be an announcement shortly about exactly when that's going to be. So there will be a service for the public, and then a reception after. I'm not really sure of the details of that. I know that his wife Muriel and her daughters and I are just working out those details. But there will be announcements about that for sure. But in the meantime, his music is accessible on YouTube and through his website. If people want to get CDs, he just released another CD, which was a compilation of previous recordings that he'd done. He just did that last summer.
Wow.
So those are available as well, and they can probably contact, over the next few days, contact Muriel through his website if they're interested.
All right, working right to the last. Diane, we have to leave it there. We're out of time. I want to thank you for yours. Really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Diane Lines is a pianist and a vocalist with the Dal Richards Orchestra.